"We don't do inevitable, lady." The human's answer made a cosmic being laugh. Then retreat. The colony of Solara 7 was small, barely a dot of civilization on the edge of the Milky Way, but it carried a quiet pride. Humans had settled here decades ago, venturing into the void to carve a home from cold rock and thin atmosphere. Life was simple yet challenging. Fields of silver-tinted crops stretched between low, rounded buildings, and children ran through the corridors of their schools, their laughter echoing under glass domes that protected them from the planet's thin, icy air. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens all worked in harmony, building homes, machines, and dreams together. Even on the edge of the galaxy, life carried a sense of hope. It was during one of those long, quiet days that the sky changed. It wasn't a subtle shift of clouds or sunlight. It was impossible to ignore. A sudden crackling light split the atmosphere, brighter than any sun or star, cascading across the horizon like molten gold. People froze. Dogs barked, and the hum of machinery seemed to pause, as if the entire colony were holding its breath. And then she appeared. Orlia descended like a liquid shimmer, her form radiating light and color that humans had no names for. Her presence was massive yet elegant, filling the sky while somehow moving with the delicacy of a floating leaf. She was a cosmic being, older than planets, older than stars, and her energy seemed to bend space itself around her. People instinctively bowed, crouched, or hid, unsure how to face something so incomprehensible. In a voice that sounded both like music and the rumble of a distant supernova, she spoke. "I am Orlia. Your civilization is finite. Your efforts are trivial in the face of the cosmos. Resistance is futile. Your existence will end, as all things do." Her words carried weight that no human voice could match. It was not a threat in the usual sense, but it was the kind of statement that made hearts sink. Inevitability dripped from every syllable. Among the crowd, most humans trembled, whispering in fear. They thought of their ancestors, their struggles, and the vastness of space. They remembered how many species had risen and fallen, and they felt powerless. But one man did not move. He did not shrink. He did not falter. Elias, a young engineer, stood at the edge of the crowd. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead and his brown eyes were steady. He had grown up on Solara 7, building machines from scraps and designing drones to help the colony's farmers. He understood fear. He had faced storms, equipment failures, and the occasional malfunctioning rover. But this was something entirely different. Yet he felt something unexpected: curiosity. Elias tilted his head and studied Orlia. She wasn't merely a creature of destruction. She was a being of immense knowledge and power. He could feel the pressure of her presence, but he also noticed a subtle curiosity in her movements. She looked at their city, their gardens, their workshops, not with disgust but with interest. Her radiant eyes lingered on the children who played, on the elders who tended the plants, and on the simple human buildings made of glass, metal, and stone. Taking a step forward, Elias spoke, his voice calm but clear. "We don't do inevitable, lady." The words came naturally, as if the idea had been in him for years. Orlia paused. She had expected fear, begging, or immediate surrender. No one had ever spoken to her like that. The cosmos had taught her that beings with less power often cowered. They accepted what she said, or they tried and failed. But Elias' answer, simple, defiant, and utterly human, made her pause in a way she had not experienced in millennia. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice rippling like light through water. "You cannot change the flow of time, the rise and fall of civilizations. You cannot resist what is written in the stars. Why do you speak of defiance?" Elias' lips curved into a small smile. "Because trying matters. We may fail, we may fall, but giving up, that's not something we do. We don't accept the word inevitable. We keep going anyway." The crowd murmured. Some were shocked, others inspired, and some simply bewildered. Humans rarely had a chance to speak to cosmic beings, let alone speak without trembling. Orlia floated closer, her form warping and shimmering with energy. "Your species fascinates me," she admitted, her voice now softer, almost musical. "I have watched countless worlds. I have seen life rise and crumble like dust on the wind, yet you speak as though the cosmos bends to your will." "We don't expect it to," Elias replied, stepping further forward. "We shape what we can, we protect what we love, we learn, we create, that's enough. That's what makes life meaningful." For a long moment there was silence. Orlia's light pulsed slowly, almost as if she were thinking. Then she spoke again. "Meaningful, a fragile notion. So many civilizations thought their meaning was enough, and yet they vanished." Elias nodded. "Maybe, but they never had the chance to see what comes next. We do, and we try anyway." Orlia tilted her radiant head. For the first time she was uncertain. Humans were unpredictable. They did not always act according to logic or the flow of inevitability. They created, they persisted, they dreamed. Her cosmic mind, which had calculated the outcomes of countless civilizations, had not anticipated this. Curiosity overtook her. She allowed herself to drift down closer, letting her energy swirl around the colony like a gentle storm of colors. The children, initially frightened, began to stare in awe. They had seen her in the sky, felt the hum of her presence in the ground beneath their feet, and now they saw her up close, her light reflecting in their wide eyes. Elias gestured to the colony, to the fields, the buildings, the machines. "See this. We build, we teach. We help each other. It may not seem important to a being like you, but it matters to us, and it matters because we choose it. Life isn't about surviving against inevitability. Life is about trying, about making moments count." Orlia studied him intently. She had seen stars born, planets die, and civilizations fade, yet she had rarely considered the value of the struggle itself. Humans were small, fragile, and temporary, but there was a spark in them that she could not extinguish with her power. She floated silently, letting the crowd of humans absorb her presence. Some whispered to each other, inspired by Elias' words. Some laughed nervously at the audacity of a human standing up to a cosmic entity, and Elias simply stood, confident in his calm defiance. Finally, Orlia's laughter rang out. It was unlike anything the humans had heard. It was not a harsh or cruel sound. It was a deep, musical, cosmic laughter, as if she were both amused and genuinely delighted. "You amuse me," she said. "I have never met a species so small that dares to challenge inevitability without fear." Elias shrugged slightly. "We don't do inevitable. We don't stop because the universe is bigger than us. We keep going. That's our way." Orlia's light flickered, swirling in colors the humans had no names for. She had seen countless civilizations crumble before the weight of cosmic forces. They had all bowed to the inevitable. And yet here was a small group of humans, on a tiny planet, refusing to surrender, refusing to give in, simply because they wanted to live and create and try. "I wish to understand you," Orlia said finally. Her tone had shifted from judgment to curiosity. "Your persistence, it is unusual, rare, perhaps even valuable." Elias smiled again. "You can see it for yourself. Come with me." He led her through the colony, showing her the workshops where humans built drones and simple robots, the gardens where they experimented with new ways to grow food, and the classrooms where children learned about stars and planets far beyond their reach. Orlia observed everything, her luminous form bending light around her as she moved. She watched as humans worked together, taught each other, and laughed despite the challenges of their world. Orlia's cosmic mind, which had never paused for amusement or curiosity, now found herself observing small acts of ingenuity and kindness. Children learning to build tiny flying machines, farmers inventing methods to conserve water, engineers solving problems together. She had not expected such a display of determination and creativity from a species so small. Elias noticed her fascination. We don't wait for things to be given to us, he explained. We don't accept that life is just about surviving. We make it meaningful. That's why we don't do inevitable. Every day we try, we learn, we create. Every day matters. Orlia remained silent for a moment. Then she spoke almost in a whisper. You may be small. Your world may be fragile. Yet your spirit is unlike anything I have seen in millennia. Elias looked up at her unafraid. That's us. We may not be the strongest, we may not be the fastest, but we never stop trying, and we never accept the word inevitable. That's the human way. For the first time, Orlia considered something entirely new. She had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. She had measured the inevitability of stars dying, of planets cooling, of empires vanishing. But humans carried something she had not measured, a stubborn, persistent light, a drive to create and protect, no matter the odds. And in that moment, Orlia realized that perhaps the universe itself had not accounted for the human spirit. The crowd, still watching in awe, began to feel a shift in the atmosphere. Fear was slowly replaced with hope. They saw not a being of judgment, but a visitor who could be taught, persuaded, and even amused. And they realized that, perhaps for the first time in human history, the cosmos might listen. Elias turned to the humans around him and spoke softly, so Orlia could hear. We may be small, we may be fragile, but we don't do inevitable, not now, not ever, and we never will. Orlia's light pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. She floated above the colony, observing every small act, every laugh, every machine, and every determined gaze. For the first time, she felt a sense of curiosity and amusement rather than judgment. The human colony of Solara 7, small and fragile at the edge of the galaxy, had shown something extraordinary. They had refused inevitability, spoken to a cosmic being with courage, and dared to persist simply because it was the human way. And Orlia, timeless and powerful, had laughed, a sound like galaxies colliding, yet gentle and warm and chosen, for now not to destroy or interfere. Elias watched the stars, thinking of what lay ahead. Humans had always faced impossible odds, and they had always tried. And now, with Orlia above them, he understood something deeper. The universe might be vast, inevitable forces might exist, but there was always room for human courage, creativity, and hope. Always room for the impossible to become possible. And with that, part 1 of this story closes, leaving the humans of Solara 7 standing under a sky that had grown even more beautiful and mysterious, knowing that they had faced the unimaginable and chosen to persist. After the first meeting, Orlia did not leave. Instead, she hovered over Solara 7, her radiant form reflecting in the glass domes and metal structures of the human colony. The light from her presence was soft but pervasive, almost like a sunrise that reached every corner of the settlement. Humans moved cautiously around her, unsure whether to continue their daily lives or wait for some unforeseen decree. But Elias, as always, walked with steady confidence. He had learned that Orlia's curiosity could be guided, and he intended to show her the world through human eyes. Elias began the day by leading Orlia to the colony's central workshop. Here, humans of all ages tinkered with machines, repaired drones, and experimented with inventions meant to improve life on the planet. The workshop was filled with the hum of motors, the smell of heated metal, and the chatter of engineers discussing solutions to small yet pressing problems. "This is our heart," Elias said proudly. "It may look simple, but this is where we try, where we create, where we turn ideas into action." Orlia floated above the workshop, her form stretching and shimmering as she observed the humans. "These machines, they are fragile. They will fail. You will fail," she said softly, her voice a melodic echo through the room. "Maybe," Elias admitted, "but failure is just a step toward success. We learn from it, that's why we try." A child, no more than 8 years old, held a small drone in her hands. It had wings of thin metal and a camera attached to its front. She looked nervously at Orlia, then smiled at Elias. "I made it fly farther than yesterday," she exclaimed. Orlia tilted her head, light pulsing in rhythm with her thoughts. "You are proud of this failure," the child giggled. "It's not failure if we keep learning." Elia's chest swelled with quiet pride. "See, we don't do inevitable. Every mistake is a chance to try again. That's the human way." Orlia floated closer to the child, letting her presence calm the little human's nervousness. She extended a hand, and for the first time her energy touched a human directly. The child gasped, expecting harm, but instead felt warmth and gentle vibrations. Orlia's vast power was tempered, not destructive, and in that moment she understood something humans had long known instinctively. Power alone does not define life, purpose does. Next, Elias led Orlia to the agricultural fields. Solara 7 was not an easy planet to cultivate. Its soil was rocky, its rains unpredictable, and its temperatures harsh. Yet humans had learned to grow food through clever irrigation, recycled water, and careful planning. Orlia's eyes widened as she observed humans planting seeds, monitoring growth, and adjusting techniques based on the environment. "You are shaping life on this planet," Orlia said. "For what? The universe will not care for these seeds. The stars will burn and these plants will wither," Elias smiled. "We don't plant seeds for the universe. We plant them for us, for tomorrow, for each other. Life is what we make it, not what we are told is inevitable." Orlia considered this carefully. She had seen entire worlds consumed by cosmic events. Civilizations rise only to vanish into dust. Yet here were humans, small and fragile, planting seeds and hoping for a harvest in the face of inevitability. There was a stubbornness in them that she had not encountered in millennia. They moved on to the education center. Inside, students sat at holographic desks, learning about stars, planets, and human history. Elias gestured to the teacher, who was explaining how humans had once traveled to other worlds and survived against incredible odds. "Knowledge is our shield," Elias explained to Orlia. "We cannot predict the universe, but we can learn, adapt, and prepare. That's how we survive." Orlia watched as a student raised her hand. "Miss Orlia," the girl asked, "are you really a lady of the stars? Can you see all the worlds?" Orlia's light flickered in amusement. "Yes, little one. I have seen more worlds than you could ever imagine. I have watched stars form and die, planets bloom and fade." The girl's eyes widened. "And you think we are small?" Orlia's form shimmered. "You are small, your lives are brief, yet there is a strength in your spirit that I cannot ignore." Elias smiled. "See. That's why we try. We may be small, but we reach for the stars anyway." The cosmic being's curiosity deepened. She had witnessed countless species bow to fate, accept the impossible, and vanish quietly. Humans, however, did not act this way. They did not wait for events to decide their future. They acted, they created, they adapted. Over the next few days, Orlia continued to follow Elias. He showed her the simplest and most remarkable aspects of human life. A group of elders repairing a water purification system, with nothing but basic tools and knowledge. Children collaborating to design tiny flying machines that could explore dangerous terrain. And families working together to ensure no one went hungry. Each act, small and ordinary, impressed Orlia. She began asking questions, genuinely seeking to understand. "Why do you care so much about things so small?" she asked one evening, floating above the fields as the sun set, painting the sky in pink and gold. Elias looked at her calmly. "Because small things grow into bigger things, because we matter to each other, because life is not measured in power but in effort, care, and persistence. We may not control the universe, but we control how we live. That's enough for us." Orlia absorbed this in silence. She had considered herself detached from the emotions and struggles of smaller beings, seeing them as temporary sparks against the vast canvas of existence. Yet here, on a tiny planet, she could not ignore their determination, their laughter, and their hope. She decided to test them, not with destruction, but with observation. Orlia created small anomalies, minor cosmic shifts that would challenge the colony without endangering it. A sudden windstorm threatened their crops, a burst of unusual solar energy caused machinery to malfunction, and a small meteor passed close enough to require quick thinking. Each time, humans responded. They repaired, adapted, and learned. Children and elders, scientists and farmers all contributed. Orlia's laughter rang out each time. She had expected panic, surrender, and fear. Instead, she found collaboration, ingenuity, and hope. Humans were not powerless. They were small but relentless, fragile yet capable of great acts. One evening, Elias and Orlia stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The sky was alive with the light of distant stars, and the humans moved below like busy ants tending their community. Orlia's form glimmered as she spoke, her tone softer than before. You continue despite the odds. You act, though I see the paths leading to hardship and loss. Why? Elias smiled, watching the humans below. Because that's what life is. We do not accept inevitability. We learn, we adapt, we try. Even when failure seems certain, we keep going. That is what makes life meaningful. That is what makes us human. Orlia's light pulsed slowly, as if considering this truth. She had seen so many civilizations, so many species, all bowing to destiny. Humans, however, had a stubbornness that defied prediction. Their choices were not about power or survival alone. They were about care, effort, and the desire to leave the world a little better than they found it. The cosmic being tilted her head. You persist. You act without guarantee. You are curious about life itself, not just survival. This is unusual. Yes, Elias replied quietly. We are curious, we care, we try, and that's enough for us. That's why we don't do inevitable, lady. That's why we keep going. Orlia laughed softly again. It was not mocking, but warm, full of light and resonance. She had not laughed in millennia. The simplicity of human determination, their refusal to accept fate as final, amused her. It was not a weakness. It was a strength she had not expected. Over the next few weeks, Orlia began to change. She was no longer just an observer of inevitability. She was a student of humans. She asked questions about their lives, their work, and their dreams. She learned about their arts, their sciences, and their small rituals that brought joy. She began to see that even the tiniest acts, planting a seed, teaching a child, building a simple machine, rippled across their world in ways that mattered. Elias guided her patiently. Every day we act, we shape the future. Not the universe itself, perhaps, but our lives. That's what makes it worth living. That's why we don't do inevitable. We keep going. Orlia floated silently, contemplating the human way. She had expected fear, surrender, and obedience. Instead, she found life in its purest, most persistent form. She saw the beauty of small victories, the joy of shared effort, and the resilience that no cosmic power could anticipate. For the first time in eons, Orlia felt uncertainty. Not fear, but curiosity. Could small beings really change anything in the vast universe? Perhaps not in the way she understood, but they could change themselves, their world, and the meaning of their existence. That was something she had underestimated. And so, the cosmic being who had once declared inevitability now hovered quietly above the humans of Solaris 7, learning from them, laughing with them, and witnessing a determination that could not be measured in stars or time. The humans below continued their lives, unaware of the profound impact they had on a being older than galaxies. And Elias, standing among them, smiled. He had not defeated Orlia, nor tamed her power. He had simply shown her something the universe often overlooked. The human spirit, in all its small, fragile, and relentless glory, refuses inevitability. And that refusal, he knew, was enough to make even a cosmic being pause, wonder, and laugh. Orlia had been among the humans of Solaris 7 for weeks now. Her presence, once intimidating, had begun to feel familiar. She moved gracefully above the colony, a soft glow in the sky, while humans went about their daily tasks with quiet determination. She had watched them plant, build, learn, and teach. She had seen their small victories in a world that was often harsh and unpredictable. Yet she remained curious. Observation alone was not enough. To truly understand humans, she realized, she needed to see how they responded to challenge, how they reacted when things went unexpectedly wrong. Elias had anticipated this moment. "If you want to see what humans are capable of," he said, "you need to let us face a problem on our own. We learn by trying, not by being saved." Orlia's light flickered in amusement. "You wish to demonstrate to me that your species can resist what?" She gestured vaguely toward the vast expanse of stars. "The inevitable." "Yes," Elias said simply. "Even when the odds seem impossible, we don't give up. We find solutions. That's what it means to live." Orlia considered this. She had observed civilizations fall, planets wither, and countless species surrender to forces far beyond their control. Most had failed spectacularly, giving up as soon as survival seemed unlikely. Humans, however, acted differently. They persisted. Even in the smallest ways, their actions rippled outward. She wondered how far their persistence could go. To test them, she created a minor anomaly, a harmless starstorm that passed close enough to the colony to challenge their systems. It caused minor malfunctions in energy grids, confused communication networks, and disrupted weather control mechanisms. Elias and the other engineers were the first to notice. "Looks like the solar arrays are fluctuating," Elias muttered as he examined the readings. "We need to stabilize the energy flow before the water systems go offline." Children peeked from behind windows, curious yet cautious. Orlia hovered nearby, watching their reaction. She expected panic. Instead, she saw determination. Engineers discussed solutions calmly, and technicians moved quickly to redirect energy, adjust circuits, and repair minor damages. Elias smiled. "We don't panic. We solve problems. That's what we do." Orlia's light pulsed in fascination. Even the smallest humans were contributing. Children ran errands, carried tools, or offered ideas. Elders guided the younger ones, sharing their experience. No one waited for someone else to lead, everyone acted. By evening, the storm had passed and the colony had stabilized. Nothing significant was damaged, and humans had improved their systems in response to the challenge. Orlia's laughter echoed across the sky, soft and musical. It was not amusement at their struggle, but delight at their persistence. "You are resilient," she admitted. "I did not expect such efficiency, such cooperation from a species so small." Elias shrugged lightly. "We don't need to be big to do what matters. Every small action counts. We learn from each other and we grow together. That's how we survive." The next day, Orlia presented another challenge. This time, it was more subtle, a sudden shortage of water in one of the hydroponic farms. Humans were forced to think creatively, rationing supplies, repairing leaks, and designing new irrigation systems. Children suggested collecting condensation from the dome's surface, while elders devised a way to purify and redirect water more efficiently. Orlia observed quietly, floating above the field. The humans moved as a single organism, coordinated yet independent, acting on knowledge, instinct, and collaboration. She began to notice patterns. Small human decisions, repeated over days and weeks, created solutions she had not anticipated. Even when she tried to challenge them, they adapted quickly. "This is remarkable," Orlia said softly. "I have calculated countless outcomes, yet your actions cannot be predicted. You respond in ways that defy logic." Elias nodded. "That's because we don't act only to survive. We act to live. We care, we help, we try. Predicting us isn't just about probabilities, it's about intention." Orlia was silent for a while. She had thought she understood life, yet humans were teaching her something new. Small, deliberate actions could ripple outward in ways no power, no calculation, no cosmic authority could control. As the week progressed, Orlia's tests became more imaginative. She created minor anomalies in the weather, altered energy flows subtly, and even caused small machines to malfunction. Every time, humans adapted. They repaired, rebuilt, and often improved their systems in response. Their solutions were not perfect, but they were effective. They were not flawless, but they worked. One evening, Orlia floated above the main square of the colony, observing a gathering of humans discussing a new project. "Why do you persist in these small tasks?" she asked Elias. "You could simply leave them. They are insignificant in the grand scale of the universe." Elias looked at her calmly. "They are not insignificant to us. Every life, every creation, every act of care is meaningful. The universe may be vast, but meaning is what we make it. And we make it by trying, by acting, by learning." Orlia tilted her radiant head. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had witnessed countless species surrender to inevitability. Yet these humans persisted, not because they feared the end, but because they cared about the present. Elias led her to a new project, a small team of humans designing a communication network to connect the colony with distant satellites. "We are building more than machines," he explained. "We are building connection, understanding, and knowledge. We don't wait for circumstances to change. We create change ourselves." Orlia observed the humans working together, sharing ideas, correcting mistakes, and celebrating small achievements. Children experimented with small circuits, while adults integrated their findings into larger systems. Every person contributed not because they were forced, but because they wanted to. "You are persistent," Orlia said again, her voice softer, more reflective. "Your species continues to act even when the odds are trivial, when success is not guaranteed. Why?" "Because life is worth it," Elias replied simply. "We don't accept inevitable, we try anyway. That's all there is to it." Orlia's light shimmered thoughtfully. She had encountered beings who acted only for power, for survival, or for logic. Humans acted for meaning, for care, for the sheer joy of doing what was right. It was unpredictable, illogical, yet deeply powerful. Days turned into weeks. Orlia observed humans repairing machines, cultivating food, building communication networks, teaching children and learning from mistakes. Every act, no matter how small, contributed to a larger pattern of life. She began to feel a sense of admiration, something she had not experienced in millennia. Elias noticed the change. One evening, as the colony gathered under the sky to watch a rare meteor shower, he spoke quietly to Orlia. "You see them now, don't you? Their small efforts, their persistence, their care, it adds up. That's what makes humans strong." Orlia's light flickered like a pulse. "I see it. They are not powerful in the way I measure power. They cannot move stars or shape galaxies at will. Yet their strength lies in intention, collaboration, and persistence. It is unusual." Elias nodded. "That's the human way. We are small, fragile, and often imperfect. But we never stop trying. That's why we don't do inevitable. That's why we keep going, no matter what." Orlia considered this in silence. She had seen countless civilizations bow to inevitability, surrender to cosmic forces, and fade without resistance. Humans, however, acted differently. Their persistence was not about defiance for the sake of pride. It was about life itself. They created, repaired, taught, and helped, and in doing so, they shaped their own meaning. The next test Orlia devised was more subtle. She caused a minor shift in the planet's magnetic field, enough to confuse navigation systems and sensors across the colony. Humans noticed the anomaly immediately. Engineers consulted maps, recalibrated instruments, and rerouted energy fields. Children ran small experiments, learning from the situation and reporting findings to adults. Orlia watched, fascinated. "You adapt so quickly." You do not panic, you learn and grow from disruption. How? Elias smiled. Because we care. We want to keep learning, keep living, keep improving. We don't do inevitable. We try. The cosmic being floated silently, absorbing the lessons humans offered her. She had expected chaos, fear, and surrender. Instead, she found ingenuity, collaboration, and hope. Small beings, fragile and imperfect, were capable of great things when they acted with care and persistence. Finally, after days of observation and subtle testing, Orlia spoke. I have seen your small victories. I have seen how your species adapts, learns, and thrives despite challenges. I am impressed. Elia's smile widened. We told you, we don't do inevitable. Not because we are invincible, but because we care, because we try, and because life is worth it. Orlia floated above the colony, light shimmering softly. She had expected inevitability, surrender, and fear. Instead, she had found curiosity, persistence, and collaboration. Humans had not defeated her. They had not needed to. They had simply shown her something she had not considered, that small, deliberate, and caring actions could ripple across a world in ways no cosmic power could predict. And in that realization, Orlia laughed again. Not a harsh or mocking laugh, but a warm, melodic sound that resonated with the stars themselves. She had learned that humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of creating meaning where none seemed to exist. Elias looked at the humans around him, working together to repair systems, improve fields, and experiment with ideas. He whispered to Orlia, "This is our world, our life. We may be small, but we don't accept inevitable. We keep trying. Every day, every moment, every effort counts." Orlia's light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. She had observed countless civilizations, but these humans had taught her something new. Power and inevitability were not everything. Care, persistence, and effort. These were forces even a cosmic being could not easily measure or predict. And so, for the first time, Orlia stopped merely observing. She began to appreciate the human way, the quiet, persistent courage that could not be destroyed by cosmic forces or inevitability. Small victories, meaningful effort, and the choice to act, these were the true strength of humanity. Humans had not changed the universe, nor needed to. Yet they had changed her understanding of it. And that was a beginning. Days had passed since Orlia's minor tests, and the humans of Solara 7 had begun to feel a new rhythm to their lives. The colony buzzed with energy, not from fear or expectation, but from a quiet determination that something remarkable had arrived. Orlia, the cosmic being who had once declared that all was inevitable, now observed them with something approaching fascination. She had begun to understand, in ways her eons of experience had not prepared her for, that human perseverance was different. It was not defiance for its own sake. It was the persistent choice to act, to care, and to create meaning even when the universe offered none. Elias had noticed the change in her demeanor. She no longer floated above them as a judge or a threat. Her light pulsed gently, almost playfully, as she moved through the colony, curiously examining small details that would have been invisible to any other being. A child's handprint on a freshly painted wall, the careful alignment of tiny solar panels, the soft hum of a newly repaired drone, these things held her attention. One morning, Elias approached her as she hovered above the central plaza. "You've seen what we can do with small challenges," he said, "but life is rarely simple. What happens when the problem is bigger, when the solution is not obvious?" Orlia's light shimmered thoughtfully. "You wish to show me something more complex." "Yes," Elias replied. "We don't stop at small victories. We adapt, learn, and collaborate no matter the challenge. That's the human way, and if you want to understand it fully, you need to see it in action." Orlia considered this and agreed. She decided to create a more substantial challenge, a cosmic anomaly that would test the humans without threatening harm. She called it a subtle energy disruption, enough to confuse communications, disrupt sensors, and temporarily alter environmental controls. It was designed to be puzzling, to encourage problem-solving rather than to frighten. As the anomaly spread, humans noticed immediately. Energy readings fluctuated, sensors reported unusual data, and drones stopped responding as expected. Engineers gathered in clusters, exchanging ideas and theories. Children ran simple tests under supervision, experimenting with the malfunctioning devices. Elders and teachers offered guidance, drawing on knowledge accumulated over decades. Elias moved through the crowd calmly. "Stay focused," he instructed. "Observe, analyze, and adapt. That's how we solve problems." Orlia watched quietly, her light pulsing as she observed each human's reaction. She expected fear or hesitation. Instead, she saw focus, cooperation, and creativity. Humans communicated effectively, adjusted their strategies, and tested multiple solutions simultaneously. Each small decision rippled outward, influencing others, creating a network of action that she had not predicted. One young engineer, Mara, suggested rerouting the energy through an alternative pathway to stabilize the colony's systems. Her idea was unconventional, but Elias encouraged her to try it. Children helped her adjust the small conduits, and adults integrated her solution into the larger network. Within hours, energy systems were stabilized, and environmental controls began to function normally again. Orlia floated closer, her voice soft. "You act without certainty. You make decisions without knowing the outcome." "Why?" Elias smiled. "Because we try, we learn, we adapt, we care. We don't wait for the perfect solution, we create one together. That's how humans solve problems." The cosmic being's light shimmered with fascination. She had calculated countless scenarios, yet she could not predict human behavior. Their creativity, persistence, and collaborative spirit were unlike anything she had encountered. Small victories, repeated over time, became meaningful outcomes. Imperfect solutions worked, and each failure taught lessons that improved future attempts. As the day continued, Orlia introduced further challenges, subtle enough not to endanger the colony but complex enough to require problem-solving. A sudden fluctuation in weather patterns caused temperature spikes in some greenhouses. Automated irrigation systems malfunctioned. Communication links with distant research satellites became unreliable. Humans adapted quickly. Engineers recalibrated sensors. Farmers adjusted watering schedules. Children experimented with solar-powered fans, and teachers organized simulations to anticipate further anomalies. Each act, though small, contributed to a larger, coordinated effort. Humans did not work in isolation. They shared knowledge, learned from mistakes, and celebrated small successes. Orlia observed them with growing admiration. "Your species is remarkable," she said softly. "I have watched countless civilizations falter in the face of challenges. You persist, you act, you collaborate, you learn. How do you sustain such determination?" Elias glanced around at the humans working together. "We sustain it because we care. Because we want to make life better for ourselves and for each other. Because giving up is never an option. We may be small, fragile, and imperfect, but we keep trying. That's the human way." Orlia's light pulsed slowly, as if contemplating this truth. She had always measured strength in power, control, and influence over others. Humans measured strength differently, in effort, collaboration, and the willingness to act despite uncertainty. It was a type of resilience she had never accounted for, and it fascinated her. By evening, the anomalies had subsided. The colony was fully operational, and the humans had not only solved the problems but had improved their systems to prevent similar issues in the future. Orlia's laughter echoed across the plaza, warm and melodic, not a sound of mockery but of genuine delight. "You continue to surprise me," she admitted. "I expected panic, I expected despair. Instead, you found solutions, adapted, and even improved." "How?" Elias smiled. "Because we don't do inevitable. We face challenges no matter how complex. We learn, we adapt, we act. Every small effort matters. Every choice matters. That's how humans create meaning. Orlia considered this, her form pulsing softly above the colony. She had spent eons observing civilizations, calculating outcomes, and predicting futures. Yet humans had shown her that meaning did not depend on inevitability or cosmic laws. Meaning arose from effort, persistence, and care. Over the following days, Orlia continued to explore the human world with Elias as her guide. She learned about their arts, their music, their simple celebrations, and their dedication to knowledge. She watched children build small inventions, engineers repair machinery with ingenuity, and families work together to cultivate food and resources. Each act, though seemingly minor, contributed to the vitality of the colony. One evening, Orlia asked Elias to take her to the outskirts of the colony, where the terrain was rough and unwelcoming. Humans had built small settlements in these areas to test survival techniques and improve resource collection. The soil was rocky, the winds harsh, and the temperatures unpredictable. Yet humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They endure, Orlia said softly. They adapt to conditions that would destroy most species. Elias nodded. We adapt because we must. We thrive because we try. Even in the harshest conditions, we find solutions, learn lessons, and create meaning. That's how we persist. Orlia's light flickered thoughtfully. She had expected humans to seek comfort, to avoid difficulty. Yet here they were, thriving in adversity. Their resilience was not based on strength alone, but on creativity, collaboration, and persistence. She had calculated countless scenarios, yet none had prepared her for the ingenuity of humans acting with purpose and care. In the weeks that followed, Orlia became less of an observer and more of a participant. She offered guidance, asked questions, and even suggested experiments that humans had never considered. Her presence inspired creativity and collaboration, and the humans responded with enthusiasm, integrating her ideas into their projects. Elias watched the transformation with quiet satisfaction. The humans had not needed to confront her directly to prove their worth. They had simply continued to live, act, and learn. And Orlia, the cosmic being who had once declared inevitability, had begun to understand the human way. Small acts of care, persistence, and collaboration could ripple outward in ways even cosmic power could not predict. One morning, as the colony gathered in the central plaza to celebrate the completion of a new communication network, Orlia spoke to Elias privately. I have observed your species closely. I have seen you adapt, learn, and thrive despite challenges that I believed would overwhelm you. You do not simply survive, you create, you care, you persist. You defy my calculations. Elias smiled. We don't do inevitable, lady. We keep going no matter what. That's all there is to it. Orlia's light shimmered in acknowledgement. She had expected to teach, to test, and perhaps even to intimidate. Instead, she had learned. She had learned that humans possessed a type of strength that could not be measured in power, control, or cosmic influence. Their strength lay in persistence, creativity, and the willingness to act with care and purpose. As the sun set over Solaris 7, casting warm light across the colony, Orlia floated above, her radiant form reflecting in the glass domes and metal structures. Humans moved below her, working together, celebrating small victories and learning from mistakes. Each act, though minor, contributed to the vitality and resilience of their world. Elias stood among them, watching, his heart filled with quiet pride. Humans had faced subtle cosmic challenges, adapted, and thrived. They had not changed the universe, but they had shaped their world and their lives. And in doing so, they had shown Orlia the meaning of human perseverance. The cosmic being who had once declared inevitability now observed humans with respect and fascination. She had tested them, challenged them, and watched them respond with ingenuity, collaboration, and care. And in every small victory, she saw the essence of humanity, the refusal to accept inevitability, the choice to act, and the persistence to create meaning in a vast, unpredictable universe. Elias looked to the sky and whispered, almost to himself, "We don't do inevitable. Not now, not ever, and we never will." Orlia's laughter, warm and melodic, echoed across the colony once more. It was a sound of admiration, of curiosity, and of newfound understanding. The humans of Solara 7 had not merely survived. They had taught a cosmic being something she had long forgotten. That persistence, care, and small acts of courage could ripple across the universe in ways no calculation could predict. And for the first time in eons, Orlia did not feel the need to act with inevitability. She watched, she learned, and she laughed, understanding that even in a universe filled with uncertainty, small beings could achieve remarkable things through effort, collaboration, and heart. The days on Solara 7 had become a rhythm of quiet persistence. The humans continued their work, planting, building, inventing, and learning, while Orlia floated among them, no longer a distant observer but a subtle participant. Her radiant light shimmered over the colony, casting reflections on glass domes, metal structures, and the faces of the humans below. She had witnessed ingenuity, collaboration, and persistence on a scale she had not imagined possible. Her vast calculations, her centuries of observation, had never prepared her for the power of the human spirit. Elias walked beside her one morning as the colony buzzed with activity. Children carried small solar panels to repair a damaged drone fleet. Engineers adjusted irrigation systems to adapt to the planet's changing conditions, and teachers explained experiments to curious learners. Even the elders, those who had seen many years pass, moved with a quiet determination to contribute. "They are remarkable," Orlia said softly, her light pulsing in gentle rhythm. "Every small act, every decision, every effort, it adds up. It ripples outward beyond what I can measure. I have seen civilizations collapse, species surrender, worlds fail, yet they endure, adapt, and thrive." Elias nodded. "That's the human way. We don't give up because the universe is vast or unpredictable. We act, we care, we try. That's enough to make life meaningful." Orlia considered this. She had expected fear, surrender, or hesitation when testing humans. Instead, she had found focus, ingenuity, and collaboration. Each small challenge she had created, energy fluctuations, subtle weather anomalies, minor system malfunctions, had been met with determination, learning, and adaptation. The humans had not only survived, they had improved their world and themselves in the process. "You've shown me something new," Orlia admitted, her voice melodic and calm. "I expected inevitability, I expected surrender, I expected fear. Instead, I found resilience, creativity, and purpose. Your species is unlike any I have observed." Elias smiled quietly. "We told you, we don't do inevitable, that's why we keep going. Every small act matters, every effort counts. That's how we live." For the next few weeks, Orlia continued to accompany the humans, observing their daily lives and joining in subtly. She offered ideas that inspired creative solutions, but she never interfered directly with their efforts. The humans learned from her suggestions, debated ideas among themselves, and built upon each success. Even in her presence, they retained their independence, their initiative, and their stubborn insistence on trying, failing, learning, and trying again. One day, a young engineer named Joran approached Elias with a complex problem. A new energy conduit had failed repeatedly, and the team could not identify why. Elias listened patiently, then turned to Orlia. "This is your chance," he said. "See how humans respond to difficulty without guidance. Let them find their own way." Orlia's light pulsed thoughtfully. She stepped back, observing the humans as they examined the failed conduit. They tested, adjusted, and discussed possible causes. Children ran small simulations, Adults inspected components, and elders offered insights from years of experience. They made mistakes, corrected them, and tried again. Hours later, the solution emerged. The conduit had a minor design flaw that Joran had not initially considered. With the team's collaborative effort, they adjusted the design, repaired the conduit, and restored the energy flow. Orlia watched in admiration as the humans celebrated their success, not with fanfare, but with quiet satisfaction. "You did it," she said softly, addressing the group. "Without my interference, without my power, you succeeded." Elias smiled. "We always do. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's why we don't do inevitable." Orlia's light shimmered, brighter and warmer than before. She had come expecting to test humans, to see whether they could endure challenges. Instead, they had taught her. They had shown her that small, deliberate, and caring actions could ripple across a world, creating meaning that even a cosmic being could not predict. In the evenings, Orlia often drifted above the colony, watching the humans work, play, and learn. She observed children inventing small machines that explored distant terrain, elders teaching survival techniques for harsh environments, and families collaborating to maintain fields and machinery. Each act, though seemingly minor, contributed to the resilience and vitality of the colony. Elias approached her one evening as the sun set, painting the sky in pink, gold, and violet. "You've seen what humans can do when we face challenges," he said. "But there's something else you should know. Our persistence isn't only about problem solving. It's about care, community, and meaning. That's what drives us to act even when the odds are against us." Orlia floated silently, her light pulsing in contemplation. "I have seen it. I have observed it in every corner of this colony. I have seen ingenuity, collaboration, patience, and resilience. I understand now. Humans do not surrender to inevitability because they act for more than survival. They act for purpose, connection, and hope." "Yes," Elias said. "We act because life matters, not only to us but to each other. We create meaning in the face of uncertainty. We keep going, no matter what." Orlia's radiant form shimmered as she considered his words. She had existed for millennia, observing countless species, predicting countless outcomes. Yet humans had challenged her assumptions at every step. They had shown that small, caring, and persistent actions could ripple outward, influencing the world and creating unforeseen consequences. Their strength lay not in power or domination, but in effort, care, and collaboration. The time came when Orlia knew she would depart Solaris 7. Her purpose as an observer and cosmic presence had shifted. She had not come to judge or control, but to understand. And now she understood. She had witnessed human ingenuity, perseverance, and heart, and she could not deny it. Elias approached her one final morning before her departure. The colony was alive with activity, children testing new devices, engineers repairing machines, families tending fields, and teachers guiding learners. Orlia hovered above them, her light gentle and warm. "You've learned much," Elias said quietly. "What will you do now?" Orlia's voice was soft, melodic, and reflective. "I will leave this planet as I must, but I carry your lessons with me. I have seen that even small beings can create meaning, defy inevitability, and persist through adversity. You have shown me that strength is not only measured in power or calculation, but in effort, care, and collaboration." Elias nodded. "That is all we ask. We don't need to control the universe, only to act meaningfully within it. That's how we thrive." Orlia hovered a moment longer, watching the humans below. She saw not just their actions, but the spirit behind them, the quiet determination, the persistence, and the unwavering hope that defined humanity. "I am grateful," she said finally. "You have taught me something that centuries of observation could not. I will remember this colony, this people, and this lesson. I will carry it with me as I traverse the stars." The humans continued their work, unaware of the profound acknowledgement from a being older than galaxies. They had not sought her approval, nor had they acted to impress her. They had simply lived, learned, and persisted, and that was enough. Orlia began to rise, her light brightening as she prepared to depart. She paused, looking at Elias. "One day I may return," she said. "Not to test, not to interfere, but to see how your species continues to act, to learn, and to create meaning. Your spirit is rare." "It is remarkable," Elias smiled. "You are always welcome. We will keep doing what we do. We don't do inevitable, lady. Not today, not tomorrow, and not ever." Orlia's form shimmered in acknowledgement, a pulse of radiant light that reflected both admiration and understanding. Then slowly she drifted upward, moving away from the colony toward the vast expanse of stars she had long called home. Below, the humans of Solara 7 continued their lives. They repaired machines, cultivated food, built devices, and taught one another. They acted not because a cosmic being watched, but because they cared, because they persisted, and because life mattered. Small acts, repeated over time, created ripples that shaped their world and defined their lives. Elias walked through the colony, observing the familiar rhythm of human effort and care. He saw children laughing as they tested a new invention, engineers collaborating to solve a minor problem, and families working together to ensure everyone had what they needed. It was a world of small victories, quiet persistence, and shared purpose. And he knew, as he always had, that humans would continue to act, to create, and to care. They would face challenges, adapt to difficulties, and build meaning in a universe that offered none. They would defy inevitability, not through power, not through domination, but through effort, collaboration, and heart. Far above, Orlia moved among the stars, carrying the memory of a small, vibrant world that had taught her the true power of humanity. She had seen persistence, creativity, care, and collaboration in action. She had observed that even the smallest beings, when guided by purpose and heart, could achieve remarkable things. And she had learned that in the universe, the greatest strength sometimes lay not in domination, but in the quiet, persistent courage to act meaningfully in the face of uncertainty. As she drifted farther into the cosmos, Orlia's light pulsed with warmth and admiration. She had witnessed a species that refused to accept inevitability, that thrived through collaboration and care, and that created meaning through persistence. They were small, fragile, and imperfect, yet their spirit was vast, unyielding, and extraordinary. And in that knowledge, Orlia laughed softly, a sound of joy, wonder, and deep respect. The humans of Solara 7 had not only survived, they had taught a cosmic being something she had long forgotten. That life, in its quiet persistence, its care, and its effort, could be extraordinary. Elias looked to the sky one last time, watching the glow of Orlia fade into the stars. He smiled, knowing that humans would continue to act, to care, and to persevere. Small victories would ripple outward, and meaning would grow where effort and heart were present. Solara 7 remained alive, vibrant, and thriving, not because the universe guaranteed it, not because inevitability could be avoided, but because humans had chosen to act, because they had refused to accept the impossible, because they had lived fully, bravely, and with heart. And that was enough.